Okay, so is it working or not?
Yeah, it's got the red light recording, so we're good to go.
Okay, all right, so we'll start again then. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're going to be talking about natural law tonight. We're not going to be talking about any other law but natural law. And there's a reason for that, because everybody is subject to natural law. Nobody is above natural law. Natural law, everyone is born into a state of nature. So that is what we're going to be talking about. As you can see, what's up in the screen today and what we're showing is no social compact. No social compact means you should have a social compact, and that's what creates a society. It's what creates a republic. No social compact means no authority and consent of the governed cannot be given. Therefore, all that is left is slavery, perpetuated against those that become subjects to an unauthorized legislature. A social compact is a speech of the people. If the speech of the people is absent, there is no society formed, no state can exist, no government, and no country. If the people are not willing to stand up and limit the runaway state legislatures with a present-day social compact, then there is nothing more to say. Your guns will be gone. The socialists will run your business, your life, and own your property. Property rights will not exist, and as always, the choice is yours. So, the social compact. Most people have never heard that term before. The reason why is because they really hid it through history. And what they did was they put it in the constitutions, the state constitutions. If you ever read your state constitutions, there are some of them, there's about 9 of them that actually have it in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off a few of them, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right here we have the state of Florida. That all free men, when they form a social compact, are equal and have certain inherent and indefeasible rights, among which are those of enjoying and defending life and liberty, of acquiring, possessing, and protecting property and reputation, and of pursuing their own happiness. State of Oregon. We declare that all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in right, that all power is inherent in the people. Free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness, and they have at all times a right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in such a manner as they may think proper. I was kind of going off another one, but you'll see coming up. State of Mississippi, that all free men, when they form a social compact, are equal in rights. State of Texas, all free men, when they form a social compact, have equal rights. State of Kentucky, all free men, when they form a social compact, are equal, and no grant of separate public emoluments or privileges shall be made by any man or set of men. And we notice that's going on today, because there are a lot of people that are involved in these societies where they're actually taking over everything we do, and they're managing our lives and such. Well, the problem is we don't have a social compact, and it's telling us in these constitutions that if we have a social compact, then we are equal. The problem is none of us have signed one. Well, I have. That's a different story. But when it comes down to it, if you don't have a social compact, you're not equal to the people that you're going up against. So, state of Connecticut, all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in rights. State of Maryland, that all government originates from the people and is founded in compact only, and instituted solely for the good of the whole, and they have at all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their form of government in such a manner as they may deem expedient. But because you don't have a social compact, you have no right to check those people. You have no right to tell them that they're not doing the right thing. You have no right to say a word. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. But that's the reason also why when you go into a court, you have no say. It's the same reason why you can't go into a city council and have any say. And it's the same thing when it comes to a school board. The biggest reason why we're getting this happening to us is because we do not have a social compact. But the problem is that they have one. Only it's a secret society. So they have a secret social compact, none of which you can sign on to, know what you want to. knowing what they do, because then they could hold you liable if you were actually on their social compact. So you wouldn't want to be part of their social compact. So what would you want to do in turn? You'd want to form your own. We have already done this. As amazing as that may sound, we have already done this. We have already signed our own social compact. We have already created our own government, and there's a lot of story behind that. I'm not going to get into that tonight. But it is a major, major thing when you sign under a social compact. It makes a society. Without a social compact, you have no society. Today, what we find is that we have states that don't exist. There are no states that exist anymore. It may be a shock to you, but no states exist. Why? Because there's no societies. What they are today is districts. As you can see on this map, this is a map overlay. And they created all these districts right in front of you, and you never even knew it. And what they did was they built all these districts, so there's no states, there's no borders, there's nothing. That's a problem for us. And if you don't understand that, then you need to research your history. What I'm telling you is the absolute truth. It's in your state constitutions. It's not a joke. They knew this. They formed their own secret societies. And because of that, they're able to do what they do. And you have no say about it. You have nothing to say. They're not going to listen to you. Haven't they proven that to you? Haven't they proved to you that a vote doesn't mean anything to them? Haven't they proved it to you over and over and over again? And you still sit there and wonder, why is it that when I vote, my vote is not counted? Why is it that when I complain about what's going on, they just shut the doors and say, shut the hell up? Why is it when I try to bring my argument to them, they give me 5 minutes? Well, if you don't understand that they're running their own body politic, their secret societies, then that's the reason. If you ever watched the impeachment hearing, and I suggest you watch it again, the very first impeachment hearing, Nancy Pelosi stood up in front of the Congress with the American flag behind her on a tripod and said, "The body politic has spoken." Well, that's their body politic. You have no body politic. You have no structure. You have nothing. And they prove that to you every day. Every day they're getting away with this stuff left and right. And the reason why is because you have no standing whatsoever. And the reason why you don't have that is because you have no social compact, no body politic, and you don't have the right to contest anything. And that all goes back to natural law. It goes back to natural law and the law of nations. Does everybody know about the law of nations? Because if they don't, they should. It's written in the Constitution under Section 8. Anyone who has the Constitution can read it right there under Section 8. To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. Why would they put that in there? They put it in there because everyone is subject to natural law. And if you don't know natural law, then how can you defend yourself? You're going to learn a lot more about that tonight. But what I'm trying to demonstrate to you here is that there are no societies, there are no states, and there's nothing left. They have taken over. And they're going to keep taking over until we learn. Tonight, we're here to demonstrate this to you. You wonder why people are coming through our borders. Well, the reason why they're coming through our borders is because there really aren't any borders. There aren't any states. Oh, yeah, sure, they look like states, but they're actually just bar associations. They're states within states. I'll show you. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Because I know it sounds bizarre, but it's real easy to see once you see it. And you can't unsee it once you do. So let's go to the Texas Constitution. This is the newest one they got. It was updated in 2019. And, you know, the funny thing about that is, did they ask you to attend? If you live in Texas, did they ever ask you to attend that new writing amendments into the Constitution? I think not. I think not. And the reason why is because you're not part of a body politic. That's why. You're not part of their society. So they had all the authority to write this, and they gave you none. None at all. So let's do this. I'm just going to show you really quickly here an easy way to see this. And this is really important when you really start to really understand what we're talking about here. Just the very word state. Now, there's two different states, all right? There's a state called uppercase S state, which is a proper name. It's a person, place, a thing, so it's a proper name. That means it has a capital letter S. That is a real state. And then there's a lowercase s. Now, we'll get into that, but I want to show you through this Constitution. It says, copies of this publication have been distributed in compliance with the state. The state? Interesting that they label it as the state. They don't call it the state of Texas. They call it the state. Depository law. That doesn't make any sense. The state? And then they go to say Texas state. Well, that's interesting too, because I thought it was the state of Texas. See, when you have an entity that you form, like state of Texas, for instance, then it has to be consistent throughout. And if it isn't, they're playing games with you. You read your constitutions and you'll see these things. And they'll really come out to you when you start to learn this. So let's go through it. State, uppercase state, and here we go. And other state depository libraries. What state? What state are they referring to? Now, here we have the state of Texas. It says Constitution of the State of Texas. That's correct. It is the state of Texas. It's state belonging to Texas. That's what of means, belonging to. So that's correct. We have uppercase state here, state of Texas. Excellent, right? But as you start to get further into this document, you see this state. Well, what do you mean by this state? That doesn't say state of Texas. It just says this state. What state? Notice it's capital letter S, though. This state. This state, see? Evidence in any court of the courts of this state. Not state of Texas, just this state. Belonging to the state. Wait a minute. That was this state. Now it's the state. So that's a different state. It's not the same state. If you use this state and the state, what state are you talking about? Certainly you're not talking about the state of Texas, because otherwise you would have put it there. That's not what they put there. They put this state, the state, right? So they use these terms alternately. So let's go on in this Constitution again, and we'll see other things arise. The state, this state, this state, the state, this state, this state, the state, the state. You see what I'm talking about? You're going to see this over and over and over again. This state, the state, this state, the state. And now we get into the court part of it, right? And we start seeing this. Any person who is accused in this state. Now, notice that's a small letter S, not a capital letter S anymore. What state are they referring to? What state are they referring to? You have no idea. And it goes on and on. This state right here, see? Pending trial if a judge or magistrate in this state determines what state? Magistrate in this state, see? See how it goes back and forth? It's this state, the state, and it says right here, the state, a political subdivision of the state. What state? Do you see what I'm referring to? And you're going to tell me that you know what you're doing when you protest. You're going to tell me that you know what you're doing when you walk into a court when you have no idea what is going on around you. You really don't. Has anyone ever read it like this? Has anyone ever noticed that? Have they read their state constitutions and noticed any of that? See what the problem is? Every one of the states is supposed to be a nation. Every one of your states is supposed to be a nation. And it can't be a nation without a society. So what did they do? They started taking these states and they made their own little states within the state. That's why you're seeing a lowercase s. It's a state within a state. Now, state can mean many different things. It can mean state of mind, state of being. And it can also mean a physical state. But those are all different definitions. The problem is, when you look at this document, you have no idea what definition they're referring to. Because there's nothing there to tell you what the difference is between each state that they're referring to. So you see the uppercase S, lowercase s, this state, the state, this state, every state where it's state. You know what I mean? It's just stupid. And you just toil day in and day out, not knowing what's going on around you because, well, they've hidden this all from you. This is where you can start to get an education. And as you get this education, it's going to empower you. In fact, let's go back up to section 1 again. Section 2, I'm sorry. Inherent political power, Republican form of government. Well, a Republican form of government is not a republic, is it? Even though republic is part of the word, right? A republic is not a Republican form of government. It's a different type of system. So a Republican form of government means that you elect a representative, he takes power of attorney over you and does whatever the hell he wants to do without any questions ever asked. That's a problem. That is a Republican form of government. We're not talking about a political party here. We're talking about a form of government. It's got nothing to do with a political party. Now, again, as we see here, it says all men, when they form a social compact, have equal rights, and no man or set of men is entitled to exclusive public emoluments or privileges, but in consideration of public services. You see that? You see all this? You see what this means? What you're learning tonight can empower you to a degree that you've never understood before. Once you understand this, it's going to set you into a whole different level of understanding. If you can grasp the meaning of what I'm referring to. You know now that a state is not a state, and a state is not a state of a state, and this state, that state, of a state, they're all different. They're not the same entity. If you change a letter and a name and it's upper or lowercase, and you give it to somebody as a re-registration of a business name, they'll hand it back to you and say, this is not the same business. You can't operate under this name unless you're making a new business. So when you have entities in here that have a lowercase and uppercase and this in front of it and the in front of it, those are all different states. You have no idea what you're fighting. That's a problem. A big problem. If you can grasp the meaning of what I'm referring to. You can ignore it, turn a blind eye to it, but it doesn't help out the situation, does it? So what do? You need to learn what's going on around you so that you have a way of fighting it. And believe me, you do have the power to do so if you just put your mind to it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you John Locke. John Locke wrote a book. It was the essay right here that you can see in the picture. And this right here is the social compact. Now, people knew about a social compact long ago. In fact, before John Locke, and Brandon's going to get into this coming up. But it's an agreement people make among themselves to create a government to rule them and protect their natural rights. Now, notice it says natural rights. It doesn't say anything else. To avoid a state of nature, people agree to give up some of their freedom in exchange for protection and security. Like, we don't want any murders, child molestation, things like that. You consent to not have those kind of things in your assembly. Citizens consent to follow laws in exchange for protection that these laws will give them. John Locke was a famous English philosopher that lived from 1632 to 1704. He wrote a book about natural rights in 1690 called The Two Treatises of Civil Government. He believed that government should protect the people's natural rights and the king should not have absolute power and deprive the people of their natural rights. John Locke was pretty smart, but there were people that knew about this before him. So, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brandon.
Good evening, everyone. This is Brandon Allen Anderson. I'm glad you're all here. Just going to pull up the screen here. Our compact, Tom.
What's that?
Oh, looking right. Good, Brandon.
So this is a compact 1620. This is after John Locke, sorry. And they knew about the social compact. And this is an example. It's contracts amongst men. They made agreements amongst men and to form body politic over what that is. Let's read through it. In the name of God, amen, we whose names are underwritten, the loyal subjects of our sovereign Lord King James, by the grace of God of Great Britain, France and Ireland, defender of the faith, having undertaken for the glory of God and advancement of the Christian faith. These are the Puritans, escaping persecution from England, Holland, and France. And they formed a compact. Obviously, they're still claiming to be loyal subjects to their sovereign Lord King James. However, he's not there to rule them, so they must do something. They must have a sovereign to rule over. In honor of our king and country, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia, do by these presents solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one of another, covenant. So they've made a covenant, meaning an agreement, and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic. The body politic is the sovereign. So they came together to create social compact, to create a sovereign. For our better ordering and preservation and furtherance to the ends aforesaid, and by virtue to enact, constitute, and create such just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and offices, from time to time, as shall be thought most convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submission and obedience, et cetera, King James stuff, right? So what are we looking at here? And like I said, we're looking at a social contract. Here's the signatories to it. They made an agreement amongst each other to do what? Form body politic. Why? For their better ordering and preservation. Okay? It helps them to combine themselves to preserve themselves. What did that do for them, and how does it help them better order and preserve themselves? It gave them authority to constitute and create law, write ordinances, acts, and constitutions, and form offices to carry out those obligations. What happens if someone tries to form constitutions without a body politic? Then it's just a company constitution. That's all it is. They form companies, not body politics and government, which we're going to go over a little bit here in John Locke's book. As Tom mentioned, it was the second treatise of government. There are two books to this series. This is the second book. You have to understand what's going on at this time. Again, written in 1690. This time they were experiencing monarch rule in England and all the other countries, France, etc. And they wanted to get away from this. Same in America. They're tired of it. Well, how did they overthrow the monarchs? How did they have authority to do that? It's through consent. Okay, if they didn't consent to the monarch, then they didn't have any authority over them. Section 1, it having been shown in the foregoing discourse, 1, that Adam had not either by natural right of fatherhood or by positive donation from God any such authority over his children or dominion over the world as is pretended. So what they're saying is there was no positive donation from God of the earth. It was you are cast out of the Garden of Eden. It wasn't a positive donation, meaning he didn't have the right to hand it down. That if he had, his heirs yet had no right to it. That if his heirs had there been no law of nature, nor positive law of God, these are two different laws. The law of nature being the law between men, between neighbors, and the law of God that determines which is the right heir in all cases that may arise. The right of succession, only of bearing rule, could not have been certainly determined. For that if even that had been determined, yet the knowledge of which is the eldest line of Adam's posterity. So these are speaking of the kings and queens, right? They claimed bloodlines, and that's why they with each other. Cousins and cousins being married off. That's the reason why. They're trying to keep this more potent bloodline back to Adam's posterity. However, if we all came from Adam and Eve, what makes a bloodline more potent than another? Being so long since utterly lost that in the races of mankind and families of the world, there remains not to one above another, meaning we're all equal. The least pretends to be the eldest house and to have the right of inheritance. So John Locke also speaks of the state of nature and this law that we're talking about, this law of nature. Section 4, to understand political power right. Okay, what gives a people a power right over others? We have to derive it from its original. We must consider what state all men are naturally in, and that is a state of perfect freedom to order their actions and dispose of their possessions and persons as they think fit, within the bounds of the law of nature. This is a very specific law that we're talking about here. Without asking leave or depending upon the will of any other man. So, where does this law come from? Where does this come from? It comes from the state of nature, and it's the law that's directly related to that state. To understand that, we have to go back a long ways, very long ways, to go back to Scripture. Now, this isn't just a book that you put on your nightstand and pick up and read every once in a while. It's not the book that you sit in church, listen to your pastor, pull a couple of verses out of, and preach about. This is a book of law. It has genealogies in it. It has these compacts that we're talking about, agreements amongst men. so on and so forth. It's actually a nation-building book too, which I'll go over. So what is a law that's derived from this state? To understand that, we'll go to a story a lot of people know. It's the story of Cain and Abel. Cain was jealous of his brother Abel because God favored Abel, and he saw that, and he killed him. So what's the law that comes from a brother killing a brother? Verse 14. See, you have driven me from the face of the ground today, and I am hidden from your face. So he's cut off from God. He feels cut off from God. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. So now he's a fugitive and he's wandering on the earth, meaning he has no people. He has no society. And it shall be that anyone who finds me kills me. It's the same laws that we see in the old covenants, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Because he has killed, in turn he will be killed. These are old laws. When I'm speaking about this book being a nation-building book, and we talk about these covenants, what am I speaking about? Well, you watch the Israelites exile from Egypt, and you heard Tom speaking earlier. All free men, when they form a social compact, right, you must be free, so you must exile first. You cannot be a slave and form social compact. So the Israelites left Egypt, wandering in the wilderness, meaning that they were without society. They're out in the wilderness. They were given something, though. Later on, what was given to Moses when he climbed the mountain were the 10 Commandments. Placed within the Ark of the Covenant, a covenant meaning an agreement amongst men. At that point in time, they formed society. It was the Israelite nation. From there, they started marching for a place. Security. They needed a place to be, and that was Jerusalem. So that was given to them by God. Later on, we saw a new covenant come in, and that was Jesus Christ. 2 laws within that covenant, and a perfect example of natural law and God's law, right? To fulfill the Torah. 2 laws: love your neighbor as you would love yourself. That's natural law. And love God with all your heart, mind, and being. That's God's law. So that's what John Locke was speaking about in the beginning there. What does John Locke have to say about the social compact? To understand that, we'll go down to section 14, and we'll actually see some authority. What does this consent to a contract actually give a people? It is often asked as a mighty objection, where are or ever were there any men in such a state of nature? To which it may suffice as an answer at present, that since all princes and rulers of independent governments all through the world are in a state of nature. John Locke said something very important right here. He's stating, since all princes, right, principalities, and rulers of independent governments, municipalities all through the world are in a state of nature, meaning they're all subject to the law within that state. That's natural law. This is why conscientious objections are still recognized in courts. When we look at courts, school boards, governors, secretaries of state, anybody, they're still within this state of nature, meaning they're still subject to the law of nature. It is plain the world never was, nor ever will be, without numbers of men in that state. I have named all governors of independent communities, whether they are or are not in league with others, for it is not every compact that puts an end to the state of nature between men, but only this one of agreeing together mutually to enter into one community and make one body politic. Again, what formed body politic? Compact in which they agreed together mutually. It's consent. If you didn't consent to it, it wasn't okay. So you hear the phrase, just say no. That's a real thing. Other promises and compacts men may make one with another and yet still be in the state of nature. So you cannot leave this state. However, you can make an agreement together and consent to this agreement. We'll look at government, and we'll scroll down just a little bit. And it's right here. Section 99. This is very important. Whosoever, therefore, out of the state of nature unite into one community must be understood to give up all the power necessary to the ends for which they unite into society. So you're giving up yourself to enter into body politic, right? To compact with each other. To the majority of the community, unless they expressly agreed in any number greater than the majority. All right, so that's what we see today. These people speak on our behalf, right? On the behalf of the majority. But ask yourself, when did you ever sign a compact with them to be a part of this majority? And by barely agreeing to unite into one political society, which is all the compact that is or needs to be between the individuals that enter into or make up a commonwealth, and thus that which begins and actually constitutes any political society, the unwritten constitution, right, is nothing but the consent of any number of free men capable of a majority to unite and incorporate into such a society. Important sentence right here. And this is that, and that only which did or could give beginning to any lawful government in the world. To have lawful government, you must have compact. It's the consent of the people. Without it, you don't have a lawful government. Why? Why do we want to enter into compact? It's very simple. First, John Locke states, for the state of war. So people trying to take what you have, commit genocide. That's a reason why I'm in compact. Of slavery. The superior power on earth comes in trying to enslave you. This is actually an issue today through the IRS trust. They're placing people within trusts. Trusts are for property, not people. They assigned a social security number to you as property. The recognition of private property. When we're registering automobiles, we're placing them within public property registries at the Department of Motor Vehicles. That becomes their property. It's now public property. This is why you have to keep up on registration. And if you are found operating their property without their licensing, you're extorted or thrown in jail. Paternal power, the recognition of a relationship between a mother and child or a father and child. Again, an issue today. When at birth, most people create contract. This is actually another compact, an agreement, right? An agreement between men to give up the paternal power to the. So that's a big deal today. That's why we see issues with DHS and the recognition of those relationships. So what keeps them from just walking over us and saying, well, we don't recognize your compact, we don't agree to that, and we're just going to do what we want? We have to go and look at another book, and Tom was mentioning it earlier, The Law of Nations. Now, this book was used during the French Revolution, Napoleon Bonaparte, which I don't agree with everything that he did. But the French Revolution, and they overthrew the monarchs of France and overthrew the Vatican, arrested a pope, and he died 4 years in jail. How? If the pope had canon law, wouldn't canon law protect the pope? What made this law take precedence over canon law? That's what we've been talking about. This is the law of nations, or the principles of the law of nature. It's natural law. It's derived from Scripture. And as I've been saying, when we look at where everything came from, we have to go back to the state of nature, meaning that everything is subject to that law, the law of nature. So we hear a lot of times people talk about canon law, maritime law, martial law, color of law, common law. All of these laws came from somewhere. They came from the state of nature, meaning that even those laws are subject to the law of nature. The law of nature takes precedency over those laws. Applied to the conduct and affairs of nations and sovereigns with 3 early essays on the origin and nature of natural law and on luxury. Understand what the compact, the social compact, does for us. We'll go to the word precedency. It's to take first place, right? Section 36, Emer de Vattel, who wrote this, he wrote it in 1750s, and he was a Frenchman. Again, very smart with natural law. We have already observed, prelim, section 18, that nature has established a perfect equality of rights between independent nations. Again, we're all equal within the state of nature. However, what is this about precedency? And since precedency or preeminence of rank is a prerogative, no nation, no sovereign can naturally claim it as a right. Why should nations that are not dependent on him give up any point to him against their will? However, as a powerful and extensive state is much more considerable in universal society, a people and social compact, than a small state, it is reasonable that the latter should yield to the former on occasions where one must necessarily yield to the other, as in an assembly, and should pay it those mere ceremonial differences which do not in fact destroy their equality and only shew a priority of order, a first place among equals. First place among equals. How did we take this first place? Again, we're all equal because we're all within the state of nature. However, how do we go to the front of the line? He told you right here. You must enter into society, means forming a social compact, and the people must assemble. Now you've taken first place. He said even right here, as this more powerful and extensive state, right, this bigger state goes up against this small state. However, the bigger state must yield to the other when assembled. So it's a very powerful thing that we're talking about. Why and how? Ordering and preservation. And what did it allow us to do? It allowed us to constitute and create just and equal law, form ordinances, acts, constitutions, and offices. Okay? Without it, you have nothing. You can't do these things. Now, within counties, if there's somebody that's forcing mask mandates or vaccinations, whatever the case may be, you create law against that. And you've taken first place and you spoke on their behalf now. It's very simple. I will hand her back over to Tom if you're ready.
Okay, so
You have the floor.
all right, so in the secret covenant that was written by Rockefeller, the old man, I believe, we're not sure exactly where this came from, but it doesn't really matter. It's a secret covenant that they made, and Brandon touched upon the name of it, a covenant. It's an agreement, right? And they do this under blood, by the way. But if they ever find out they are our equals, we shall perish then. This they must never know. If they ever find out that together they can vanquish us, they will take action. If they ever find out that we are their equals, they ever find out that we are their equals. Well, how do we become their equals? Well, we've been discussing that tonight, haven't we? By forming a social compact. So we become equals by signing a social compact. They honor that, believe it or not. We have proof of that. And they do acknowledge it. They do act in honor when you act in honor as well. As an inhabitant, and by the way, let me show you a definition for that in the Law of Nations. As an inhabitant, you have no rights. And I'll show you that. Hold on a second. As an inhabitant, you have no rights. This is from the Law of Nations. The inhabitants, as distinguished from citizens, are foreigners who are permitted to settle and stay in the country. Bound to society by their residence, they are subject to the laws of the state while they reside in it. And they're obligated to defend it because it grants them protection. Wear your mask, get your jab, and shut the hell up. That's the protection they're offering, right? Though they do not participate in all the rights of citizens, like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they enjoy only the advantages which the law or custom gives them. The perpetual inhabitants are those who have received the right of perpetual residence. You check that off on your license and sometimes on your tax forms, and also U.S. citizen, which you are not one of those either. The perpetual inhabitants are those who have received the right of perpetual residence. These are kind of citizens of an inferior order and are united to society without participating in all its advantages. Their children follow the command of their fathers as the state has given these the right of perpetual residence. Their right passes to their posterity. This is directly from the Law of Nations, and since you haven't taken an oath to anything, you haven't signed a social compact, you have done nothing to prove that you're a U.S. citizen to begin with. You're not a state citizen, and state citizens, well, that'd be a better thing because they're actually separate nations. But you're not a state citizen. So you're not even part of a nation, which makes you what? Stateless. You are stateless in this society. You have no rights. If you haven't discovered that already, I'm not sure what to tell you. So let's take a look at something we're kind of familiar with here. Now, everybody remembers the Declaration of Independence, right? Well, remember how I told you have the right to change government? Well, they left something out of that. Let's find out what that is. It may reform the government. If any nation is dissatisfied with the public administration, it may apply necessary remedies and reform the government. But observe that I say the nation, for I am far from meaning to authorize a few malcontents or incendiaries to give disturbance to their governors by inciting murmurs and seditions. None but the body of a nation, that's the body politic that we were discussing, have a right to check those at the helm when they abuse their power. When the nation is silent and obeys, the people are considered as approving the conduct of their superiors, or at least finding it supportable. And it is not the business of a small number of citizens to put the state in danger under the pretense of reforming it. So in order to change what's going on today, you need to be the body of a nation or the body politic. This is where you need to be if you want change. And nothing will ever change until you realize that. I don't care who tells you what they're going to do. I don't care who gives you promises of what they're going to do. It doesn't even matter. Unless you know the law. If you know the law, which we are describing to you tonight, then you know that you need to become part of a body politic in order to make things change. If you don't, then you got no chance of changing anything. Even if they came in and cleaned everything up, if there's no people forming societies together, there'll be no body politic and there'll be no government. We'll be back to the same thing we were before, and we'll be able to have it torn down once again. Great thing to leave for our future, isn't it? So, You need to understand these things. And once you understand these things, you'll understand where the power comes from. This is the power of the people, the body politic. When you talk about the body politic, that is the people's voice. As I said from the beginning, it's the voice of the people. Are there any questions? Somebody has to have one. Don't be shy.
Yeah, how do you form a body politic or a social compact and make it legal to where we actually have the fucking right to do, to govern ourselves or whatever,
We've already done that. We've already had that set up. That's been set up for quite a while. In fact, we've had it since 2010. We claimed a few things in 2009, and our claims they were acknowledged. But we have actually set this all up, ready to go. We're waiting for people that want to make it happen. That's what we're looking for tonight. What?
Do we just join?
Yeah, if you want to. It's up to you.
How do you join?
Where are you located?
We're all over the country.
So it's an online body?
Well, what makes a church? The building of the people.
I think I'm involved in something like that because I've been reading about it and I had to join it so I could at least get some more information. But
what did you join? What did you join?
National Liberty Alliance, and I'm supposed to create a committee of safety in my community, and we're supposed to go to the sheriff. And
okay, did you form a body politic?
Well, I haven't done anything really yet because I'm just reading about all of this. So
okay, well, if there's no body politic formed, then it's full of crap.
Oh, then it needs an actual form.
Yeah, okay. It needs a body politic. The only way you're going to do anything is to form a body politic, and you also have to do a few other things, but that'll be going over tonight. I just wanted to ask if there's any questions about what we've gone over so far.
There's too many to go over, but is there a name to your body politic, or is it just recognized by self-recognition?
No, it's recognized. In fact, we reclaimed the original government of 1781. Do you know what that government was?
I do not.
Okay. Are you familiar with the Articles of Confederation?
I am not.
Okay. The Articles of Confederation was the Constitution before the Constitution, formed in 1781. It was abandoned. We figured that out. Once we figured out that it was abandoned, we had a right to claim it. So we did. Articles of Confederation and perpetual union between the states, and then it lists all the states here. The style, which is the way it's written, of this confederacy, shall be the United States of America. That's the name of the country, by the way. It's always been the name of the country. You just never knew it. But you know who did know it? You know who actually knew the name of the country?
Do tell.
His name would be President Trump.
Oh,
see this right here? Yeah, of course you do.
That's what
I am pleased to inform you that the United States of America, you saw that in the Articles of Confederation, right? The United States of America has reached a signed agreement with Mexico. Why did he put that name in there? Do you have any idea? Remember what I told you before? Change a letter to a capital or lowercase, it makes a difference?
Oh, yes. That is indeed an official title.
Yes. So why did he use that name in this tweet? In 2019.
Because something's official.
Was he
he knows something
trying
you
to
don't.
switch us back over to
No, he wasn't.
Oh.
No, he had power of attorney over it because he was the commander-in-chief, which meant he was the commander-in-chief of the military. It's under military occupation right now, so it's under martial law. That's why you see a gold fringe flag in all the courthouses, the police stations, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That gold fringe flag is actually the flag they use under martial law. So under martial law, he had power of attorney to take over the original government and make a treaty with Mexico because he couldn't use a company to make that treaty. He had to use a country. And that country name is the United States of America.
Yeah, because we're a corporation now.
Yeah,
Ran
you're a
by
company.
Corporation.
You're a company, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like my body is as well. They own my death, they own my life and everything.
Yeah, but we have a way out of that. We've done it. You don't have to believe me. But we have done it.
The reason why people get afraid to do this is because you have to remember, you're giving up the control that they have over you. So you're not going to have your Medicaid and your Social Security and all this stuff, that
actually you do.
The bullshit.
Actually, you do.
You kind of do, yeah. You can explain it if you want, but this is what I mean. Go ahead. You know what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Your Social Security and everything else, and all those medical benefits that I wouldn't even go to the hospital today to save my life. But those things can be put in a trust, and then managed through a trust instead of managing it through your name. That's a whole nother avenue. There's a lot of things that we know that we're not going to discuss tonight, really. But there's all kinds of things that you can do once you understand the law.
I think this is excellent, and I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I appreciate.
See, we don't have a zip code system that we use. We actually moved ourselves from the zip code system into what's called the NAC code system, which is called the Natural Area Code. And they recognize who we are. They recognize what we do. In fact, here's a court document with
who's they?
Our NAC code on it. The courts and the cabal, the people that know, the people in the know.
And
they actually know what we're doing. Oh, they do. Once you're in international realms, it's a little different than you as an inhabitant. Remember, I went over inhabitant and all that. Well, once you're not an inhabitant anymore, they recognize that. All right, so this is a register of actions. This was in Minnesota. Rickenberger, Marshall Revlin, care of Government of the United States of America, but they misspelled it. It's supposed to be a capital T and an S on the states. And then Row Route 1, Box 2, Office of the Secretary of State, the United States of America, Global Postal Code, NAC, Natural Area Code, 850H2MR7C8. See, we have a whole different jurisdiction. We created another sphere of existence, so to speak. And they recognize that. Believe it or not. As much as that's hard to believe, we actually did do it. And as you can see, jurisdiction, state of Minnesota, none. The reason why they have no jurisdiction over it is because it is foreign to their zip code system. The man here actually took a nationality, and he's not one of their slaves anymore. This court case was dropped. They had nothing they could do.
It is hard to believe, but at the same time, I've always had an inkling that there has to be a way to go sovereign.
Oh, there is.
It's just so far buried deep in the archives. But again, as you said, we all certainly appreciate what you're doing. Even the undercover agents that are in here, they probably are taking notes too.
I don't care about the undercover agents. They already know who we are.
I know.
And
I'm not afraid of any of them.
They keep a close eye.
Yeah.
You cannot be sovereign. The only time we are sovereign is when we assemble as a body politic. That is the only time we are sovereign.
Well, that's what I'm speaking in respect to.
Yep.
Okay. So here in Kane County, Illinois, there was another case in 2015 where the man was unlicensed. His name was Maurice Johnson. And he got caught driving without a license. And after the court case was over, because of our paperwork and what we've done and what we've accomplished with the body politic we have, he was found to be a non-citizen, non-resident. Remember I talked about resident before? Resident, inhabitant, and all those things. Well, this man was discovered to be a non-citizen, non-resident alien to the U.S. of America. They dropped his case and he walked out the door. This is on a court record.
Well,
all I'm doing is showing you proof. I'm showing you proof. All right. By the way, he walked out the door with a swagger. I got to add that because he told me so. In any case, we can also export vehicles from the United States into the United States of America. As weird as that may seem, we can export vehicles. This is a vehicle number here. See the vehicle ID number, which is a VIN, right? That's the number up top. It says cancel reason, out of state title. Title status, canceled. Down below, for lack of a better term, they put vehicle out of country. When a cop pulls you over and sees this, they kind of scratch their head and go, wait a minute. I'm reading this from the Department of Motor Vehicles, and it says that this vehicle was exported into the United States of America.
From the United
Isn't that
States.
where I live? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty funny, actually, when you think about it. So that means what happens is, what ends up happening is they have to destroy the title because it no longer belongs to them. It belongs to you. So you own this property. Try to wrap your head around that one. So that's another thing, right? We also were able to send out mail because we have a NAC code. We're foreign to them. So as you can see, it says Global Postal Code NAC 850H2MR7C8. I read that on the other document, right? This stamp is canceled. It's one of our stamps, and I'll show you our stamps so you'll understand what I'm talking about. We have our own stamps. They're right here.
That's pretty cool.
We created them. See? As you can see, it says General Post Office, the United States of America. We own the General Post Office. We actually claimed it in 2009. No, 2010. Sorry. We claimed the United States of America in 2009. The meets and bounds and seaward boundaries, which has never been done before. There's a whole story behind this. I'm not going to get into all the facts of it, but I'm just doing an overview here, so bear with me. You can learn that stuff if you'd like. It's really interesting. So these are our stamps, right? And we're able to send letters out, as you can see, right? Here's another letter. It was sent to me. Global Postal Code NAC 850H2MR7C8005 is the box number. The Government of the United States of America, Office of the Secretary of State. I hold that office. This is a stamp that we used. This is where I signed for it right here. That's what they put down the time and stuff. So I signed for this, so that's how I got it, right? It's a certified letter. This one here is a registered letter. I've got about 30 of these, by the way, in my collection. Global Postal Code NAC 850H2MR7C8005 is the box number. The Government of the United States of America, Office of the Secretary of State. These are canceled, these stamps. And here is where I had to sign for it. And here is the dollar amount. $0.00. So that there is another piece of proof. I'm just trying to show you some proof here, if you just bear with me. Right here is when I was on LinkedIn. I got kicked off of LinkedIn because we went after Gates and Fauci, and they ended up finding my account and knocking it out. But that's not a big deal. I'm used to that with social media. I'm sure many of you are also. But I was connected to this man for about 4 years. His name is Daryl Cardone. Daryl Cardone was the USN military assistant to the DOD executive secretary at Office of the Secretary of Defense, Arlington, Virginia. That would be the Pentagon. Notice the picture, notice the name. DOD is the Department of Defense. I was also connected to a lot of other people too, like Secret Service, Homeland Security, et cetera, et cetera. but not for the reasons you might think. In any case, he wrote me back because he changed from duty station. He went to the USS George Washington. And when he wrote me back, well, you'll see. So right here, you can see Daryl Cardone, prospective executive officer, USS George Washington, CVN 73. Up until this time, he was saying, "Thank you, sir," every time he wrote me back, every time I congratulated him on his anniversary or his birthday or whatever. And this time I congratulated him on his new job, as you can see. And down here is what he wrote me back. Now, you have to think for yourself, would a man of that stature, that position, risk everything for somebody who wasn't real? No. When you're in that kind of a position, your reputation is on the line. And this man wrote me back and said, "Thank you, Mr. Secretary." Do you think they acknowledge us? Absolutely. That's because we're a body politic, which is what we're describing to you today.
It's got to be a threat to them.
Actually, it's not. We're the original country. We're just picking up where the Patriots left off.
Okay, but say everybody catches on to this, all right? And this spreads like fucking wildfire. You're a threat.
This is not meant for everybody.
It's not meant for everybody, no.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
it's not meant for everybody. It's not a threat because it's not a part of their game. It's a different.
We have every right to exist as they do, and they know it. We have every right to exist just as they do. We acknowledge them, they acknowledge us. We're good. We're operating in a different realm than you are.
We have no ill will.
Exactly.
We have no ill will against them. We
Modern body
actually
politics.
need them to exist because there's a lot of people that cannot make it on our side. You have to be self-determining. You have to be self-sufficient. And there's a lot of people that cannot do that. They need to stay exactly where they are.
How can we get more involved?
Well, just pay attention, stick around, you'll learn. And as you learn, you'll get more involved in what you want to do. I mean, you know, it's your right to self-determination.
Hey, Tom.
This is a big deal, people. This is a huge deal. This is the biggest thing of a discovery in over 200 years.
Hey, Tom, can I explain something that I've just been through? I sat back I sat back for about 7 days, checking in with these guys, just listening and learning and going back through some of these files. And then I kind of learned my ABCs, how to get involved. I'm still learning. I've only been here since New Year's. You have to sign on with them, but first you got to learn what you're signing. So Tom, everybody will lead you down these videos that teaches you just ABC, how to get involved. And you learn to take over your own education. You learn to walk on your own. And once you get into that, it's like a library. You go in, you learn. You don't just go in and say, "Hey, librarian, find me this." You learn how to operate this amount of information. And it's baby steps. And it's taken me, since the first of the year to run the investigation. And I'm pretty proud of these guys. They're pretty impressive. Give it a shot. You might find your freedom in your own will to be self-leading enough to create 3 or more in order to make your compact. It takes a learning scale. It takes, I've been here 21 days or so. And I haven't signed, but no one's asked me for money either. And this education is free, and this is becoming real to me. I hope you give it a shot. Thank you for your time. I yield the floor.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't want to get like a mandatory jab, or you don't like paying taxes to Uncle Sam who's bending you over, and you want freedom, then this might be something for you guys, because they're not looking to tax you and take your money from you, and bend you over and make you someone's bitch. This is for you to be free, so you can worship the Lord your God.
Tom, do you want me to stop recording yet?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jenna. I didn't realize you're still recording.
I've never said stop.
Thank you,
so
Jenna.
I didn't know.
Sorry.
How often do you have these